Hello and good evening. My name is Marcus Ruiz-Evans, president of Yes, California, Calexit. We just sent out our statement on the effects of the 2020 election to 160,000 people across California. And here is that statement. I'll read it to you now. The title is, Everything is Going to Be Okay Now That Joe Biden Has Won. Facepalm. We'll get to that in a second. In Greek mythology, the Hydra was a serpentine water monster with many heads. With poisonous breath and toxic blood, this Hydra was a real beast. To make matters worse, when a warrior managed to cut off one of the Hydra's heads, two more would grow back in its place. And so it was until Hercules, the famous Greek warrior in mythology, devised a new strategy. Cauterize the wound after you chop off the head. That prevents regrowth, and it is what allowed Hercules to slay this demon. Donald Trump, though a snake himself, is not the Hydra of our times. Joe Biden, though it appears he has defeated Donald Trump at this moment, is not California's Hercules, to be sure. Let us point out the obvious. Mr. Trump is but one head of the Hydra, and now that one of its heads has been removed, it behooves us in California to understand and prepare for what will rise out of that open wound. As the Atlantic magazine, a well-respected foreign policy magazine, pointed out recently, America's next authoritarian will be much more competent than Donald Trump. Trump was, to be sure, ineffective and therefore easily beaten. The next strong person won't be. Now let us be clear. The Hydra is not any one person. It is, in fact, the American system of government itself. Donald Trump was but one aspect of this enduring threat to the California values and our way of life that we hold deeply here. That threat does not subside with Donald Trump leaving the White House, if that happens. If we believed in mythical battles of good and triumphing over evil, we might have taken up a campaign in search of a modern-day Hercules to save the country from the swamp and the deep state, the military-industrial complex, and the rotten core of the political establishment that is Washington, D.C. federal government. All of which are equally dangerous heads of this Hydra monster as Donald Trump has been. Do we even know, as Californians, who or what lies beneath it all? So, for those of you who have taken a deep breath of relief now that Donald Trump has been defeated, we have a message from Calexit to you. You are dreaming, and wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Most of us anticipated a blue wave on Election Day, a clear signal to the country and to the world itself that America made a mistake in 2016, realized it made a mistake, and will reset a new course to get us back on track. That blue wave never materialized, and Donald Trump received, in fact, 11 million more votes from across the country this year than he did in 2016, before people knew what kind of president he might be. That's right. More people came out to support Trump after seeing him for 4 years, by 11 million. Although he still lost, that is not a repudiation of Donald Trump or, in fact, his Trumpian doctrine in any way, shape. Neither are these following facts, which will make you very depressed to be part of America. Republicans gained seats in the U.S. House of Representatives, leaving Democrats with a smaller advantage going into the next Congress when they, in fact, expected to make gains. Republicans also retained control of the U.S. Senate, leaving Mitch McConnell in control of confirming Biden appointees going into the next Congress, when Democrats had in fact hoped the blue wave would wash in a new crop of newly elected Democratic senators after spending historic amounts of money trying to unseat veteran senators like McConnell and Lindsey Graham. Republicans flipped a governorship in Montana, which was also unexpected. And Republicans flipped both of the houses of the New Hampshire state government, increasing their control of state governments to 30 states out of 50. Democrats, in fact, now control just 18 states through the state legislatures and local governments. To put it another way, Republicans will now control 61%, or 2/3 of individual state legislative chambers across America, while Democrats will control less than 40. Republicans added 2 new trifectas, where they will control both houses of the state's legislative branch and the governorship in 2 more states, bringing the total number of such trifectas to 23. The Democrats only have such as 15 total trifectas to the Republicans' larger number. So the Republicans made gigantic gains in this election. And when we were told that they were going to be squashed, the blue wave never materialized. Half of the country outside of California voted for Trump. And in fact, Republicans made gains campaigning on Trump. That was never supposed to happen. Never. Joe Biden will enter the scene with a small majority in the House of Representatives and a Senate controlled by the bitter opposition, which to some extent even now refuses to acknowledge Joe Biden's election as the proper successor of the presidency of America. How's that sense of relief working for you now? Are you still jubilant about Joe Biden defeating Donald Trump? Well, then it's our responsibility to point out how you're wrong. California is in fact not out of danger. This election only solidifies the case for California's secession, and to take a step back now would be a grave mistake that we as a people will pay the price for. First of all, don't forget that conservatives now have a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court of the United States. Those conservatives are just waiting in the wings to strike down health care for all, women's reproductive rights, same-sex marriage rights, gun safety laws, and just about anything else that constitutes a California value. Second, we spoke about state legislatures. Why does it matter how many of them Republicans control? Why does it matter how many Republican governors and trifectas they have? And what does that have to do with California? The answer is because it's 2020. No, that's not some lame joke about how everything's going wrong and we should have perfect vision. In fact, it's talking about the United States conducts a census, a national census, according to the U.S. Constitution, every year. And this year it happened. That means the census report will be published and then redistricting of the House of Representatives will occur. In other words, the boundaries of congressional districts for the U.S. House of Representatives, of which there are 435, must be redrawn to reflect this new data from the U.S. Census. State legislatures will be redrawing those lines in their respective states, meaning Republicans will be redrawing congressional district lines in virtually all of the 30 states, or the majority of states by 2/3, where they have control now. That means they will lock in power for all future votes in those 2/3 states because of the census gives them the right to redistrict, which they will use as gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is the process of redrawing those congressional districts with less regard for geography and more regard for political party registration, so that the party drawing those lines can maximize its future electoral prospects. It's controversial, and it occurs routinely. If the shoe were on the other foot, Democrats would do it too. And they will in the handful of states where they control the state legislature. Yet the fact remains the majority of congressional districts for the next 5 election cycles, or the next 10 years, will be Republican controlled until the year 2032. So Republicans made gains in the House. They control the Senate. Half the country still likes Trump. Half the country is refusing to acknowledge the results of the election and still holding on to Trump when it's clear that they've lost. These are dead enders. You lost the Senate. You're losing control of the House. And half the country doesn't want to recognize the legitimate winner. And the force behind all of that, because of the U.S. Census, will gain even more control into the future. They get to redistrict, they get to redraw lines so that they can win all future elections. That means you as a Californian are dealing with a country where 2/3 of the states will be Republicans who hate you as a California and hate all of our values. And a Supreme Court that's majority conservative, and a Supreme Court that can't be retrofitted with liberals because the Senate is controlled by Republicans. In effect, California, Biden's not going to be able to do anything, and you are still under threat of having all your values taken away. But hey, relax and breathe because Joe Biden won.